What is up, everybody? This is Stuart again, and we're on the third episode of building this awesome S2000 for Rashid out of Qatar. Again, if you're not familiar with the build, myself, Mo from Real Street down in Florida, and then Rashid are building this S2000 and kind of to be, one of the best S2000 street cars have ever been around. First episode, we kind of did a walkthrough as this car had been built by the previous owner. It was already turbocharged. There was a few things we wanted to address, get an idea, get a game plan together as far as everything that we were gonna do. Then we kind of started tearing it down. Video 2, we got the engine out, got the transmission out, got a good idea of what was going on with the powertrain at the current power level. Got the engine completely torn down where we found it had some bearing material. Luckily, it didn't look like there was anything that was very costly as far as like valve train goes or crankshaft being damaged or anything like that. So where we're at now, we've got the engine out. I've got the subframe back in so that the car is more mobile. You can see a lot of the wiring harness stuff is pulled back. A lot of things are out that don't necessarily need to be out just to do an engine and trans install. And the reason for that, which I haven't really talked about much, is we were kind of trying to iron out the final details on what we're going to do as far as the body on the car goes and actually do a full color change. So we got approval for that this week, got a good idea on what we wanted the car to look like in its final state. So I'm extremely excited to say that we are going to be doing a full color change to a C7 white, which is actually called Arctic White by GM. To do that right, which is kind of the theme for the whole car, everything's got to come out. So brake lines, any little, electrical push loom holders, whatever you want to call those. Sorry, brain fart there. The whole interior's got to come out. Pretty much everything's got to come off. Obviously headlights, taillights, which I think we're actually going to go to AP2 stuff for that. Again, everything's got to come out. So I've actually never torn a car down that far. I mean, I've had pretty much everything off my personal S2000, but I've never had to have it to where the doors are off, every single clip's got to come out. I need to degrease everything and get it over to the paint shop. I really think that this is going to make this car a completely different level, than just your normal Silverstone, which is, I would think probably the most common color on these cars. So I think with the mix of some very subtle cosmetic upgrades, really nice color change, getting any of the little dents, dings out of it, is going to make a world of difference and really be, basically a show car level build at that time. One thing I do want to have to keep, or what I'm going to have to keep in mind when we're doing this is, I've got to plan out everything that's going to have to be, drilled in the car, rib nuts inserted, a bracket that gets deleted, because the last thing that, the owner's going to want is me to get the car painted, then me grind paint off to fix something, because that would be, pretty boneheaded move. So as far as what we're gonna have to take off on the inside, let me get some light in here. As far as what we're gonna have to take off on the inside, obviously I'm gonna start with the basic stuff. We've got aftermarket seats coming for it. The dash is gonna have to come out. We gotta delete those gauges, which is gonna be on my itinerary today. And I'm gonna have to plan out how the dash install is gonna go, where the wiring harness stuff's gonna go. And I actually have a pretty cool idea for what I wanna do in the back with the actual ECU location, but we'll get to that here in a minute in the trunk. One thing I really like about this car is, it's got a little over 100,000 miles on it, but the interior on this thing is really, really nice. Most of the S2000s have pretty messed up side bolsters here, but this one's, got a little bit of wear, but, nothing, no big tears, which a couple of mine have had. I'm really, really impressed with the overall quality interior on this one. Actually a little jealous from when I got my 2007. Obviously the hard top will get off today, and it looks like we've got, those are definitely drink koozies securing the hard top. Things from rattling. Those are definitely drink koozies. Those probably won't stay. We'll figure something else out besides drink koozies. We'll use those for insulating our beers while we put this car back together. Probably not for securing a hard top on it. And so let me touch back on what we're going to in the trunk. So we've got this really nice area where the factory spare tire is would go. There's a lot of room there to do something creative with a carbon fiber sheet that we can attach the ECU and all that to. So I'm actually going to relocate where the ECU would typically be under the dash back here. So I'll put the Motec dash, we'll run all the wiring harness back here, and it should be really, really clean. It'll actually save me a lot of headache from having to work underneath the dash, which if anybody's ever worked underneath the dash of an S2000 knows that is, it's not fun. It's really not fun at all. So, you know, one thing I'll keep in mind once I get everything out of here is how we're gonna set that panel in there, mount the dash, or excuse me, mount the ECU correctly, where it looks really clean, where the wires can be run correctly. And I'll probably put a radium surge tank in the trunk too. So I wanna incorporate all the fuel lines, wiring, to where it'd be, you know, an OEM type look. I don't want a bunch of crazy stuff running all over the place. I think that's about it. So I will get going on tearing this car apart. It's a beautiful day out. You know, the garage is nice enough, the temperature, so it's not freezing here in Texas yet. Yeah, so let's get to it. We made some pretty good progress on this thing. Actually, a lot more than I figured I was gonna make in the time frame, but we've got basically everything wiring and panel wise out from the back of the car up to basically where the back seats would be. So there's a couple braces that run across here, across the trunk, that are, I went ahead and deleted, and they won't be going back in because we'll be putting a Ballad Sports roll bar in there, and that alone is gonna, you know, more than make up for the stiffness that we're deleting from those two things being gone. We're not gonna go back in with most of the plastics, I don't think. So yeah, that'll clean up the back really nicely. Obviously all this sound deadening and any of that type of insulation stuff, I'll go get some dry ice and get that all knocked out, because obviously we're gonna wanna make this look as good as possible. We'll be able to get out you know, this sound deadening stuff. Any insulation will be gone. No real surprises. Not that I really expected to find any with you know, the type of stuff we were doing this afternoon. But you know, we'll move forward now, start getting the carpet out, get the gauges out, get the factory cluster out, and get the dash ready to come out. You know, then we'll move back into the engine bay, get those harnesses out. As far as, you know, cool findings, you know, sometimes you find some pretty cool things when you're going through somebody's car they've had for a little while. There was nothing really a ton of fun. We did find some nuts. We got some cool tools now that I didn't have before. And then obviously we found the sick ass koozies, prop for keeping it, you know, local with the Ziegenbach. But yeah, I think we'll go back together without the hardtop having the koozies in there. Maybe I'll see if the previous owner wants those back. Disappointing, these nuts are expired. You know, April 2019, those are questionable, but I do like these, so let's just try them. You know, why not? They still taste pretty good. So you got some free nuts with this car, that's pretty cool. So yeah, let's move forward and getting the carpet out and getting the other wiring stuff out. One thing I've mentioned is that Ray expects me handling all the wiring needs, and we'll actually be mounting the ECU back there with any relays, and the ID brushless pump controller will probably be back there with it. And I just want to give an example as to why A, I don't want to be doing the wiring on it, and B, why I'm putting it back there. Obviously this is not an example of anything that I would ever want my name on, and I understand there's a lot of, you know, maybe antiquated bigger boxes here, but I mean, this is just an absolute massacre of wiring and ECUs and controllers. Just I want absolutely nothing to do with that. I hate laying under these dashes. It can be done way better if we move it back. So I mean, just look at what we got going on in here. And I haven't even got, you know, most of the zip ties cut to even let the looms fall down. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And there is all the stuff coming out of the car that will be replaced with the race spec harness and the Motec M150 ECU. Pretty hard to believe that, you know, all this stuff was crammed underneath the dash of an S2000. Anybody that's ever worked on one of these knows that there is not much room there, even with the factory components. And then,
you know, getting one box, much less 2 additional boxes in there. And then all these wires for the various gauges and stuff that are mounted on the A-pillar. I mean, that is quite honestly an engineering marvel. I'm actually pretty impressed that they were able to get all that in there and not really be able to see it like dangling above your feet or anything. Very, very happy that this is all going to be going away. I think I also did some weight reduction. I think I got maybe 4 to 5 pounds worth of zip ties out. So that's going to be pretty cool. You know, some free weight gains there. So where we're at now, we still have the dash in, obviously. The steering wheel still in it. I'm going to go ahead and get the steering wheel off, get the column drop down, start pulling off some of the dash components like the AC controls, wind door motor controls, start button area, all that pulled off. And then I will see about getting the dash itself off. That way I can remove the rest of the harnesses and we can start really getting this thing stripped down to a bare shell, move on to the more tedious stuff like brake lines and things like that. So, you know, pretty good progress so far. There's still obviously a lot of little tedious things that we need to do before it goes to paint. But yeah, so I'm gonna make some progress on that and we'll check back in once I get done with that. Whoops. Things escalated a little too quickly there. I wasn't expecting to update you after all that stuff was gone, but it was flowing really nicely once I started getting the electrical stuff out from behind the dash and actually pulling the dash out. Everything was just going really, really nicely. I was fully anticipating having to fight it for a full day or so, but everything went really smoothly. So you can see the dash is out, steering column's out, the dash part runs across there, all the AC and heat stuff. It really cooperated really nicely, which, I mean, any car guy knows those jobs you get into and man, just everything fights you. But I was anticipating that happening and it didn't. So that was really, really rewarding. You can see I've got all the major electrical harnesses out of the car. The 2 engine bay ones, I went ahead and took the fenders out to finish doing that. And so I'm probably gonna go ahead and replace those. They're pretty cheap, just to get an unmolested one, which is the exact opposite of what I'm pulling out of this car. Would rather go back in with new good stuff. Side note, this thing is absolutely disgusting. Wild how dirty this thing is, even with the miles it had. But yeah, so we got the dash out. The dash the dash harness itself has got a few little things altered on the wiring harness. It doesn't look like anything crazy, but before I put the dash back in, I'm definitely gonna make sure that, you know, there's no permanent things deleted or altered that I'm going to need with integrating the Motec dash and ECU. So check all that out just to, you know, dot all my I's, cross all my T's. So at this point, I'm really getting pretty close to running out of things to do on the inside before any of the major body work gets done. So right now I've got about 20 pounds of dry ice, which I'm gonna go ahead and use to knock all this sound deadening and insulation stuff out. I found that to be the easiest way. Comes up really nicely on these, at least it did on mine, so hopefully this one is about the same. So yeah, let's smash some stuff now. Well, that was about as much fun as I thought it was going to be, getting the insulation out of the car. The dry ice worked exactly like I thought it was going to. Really the only problem area was the side ones right here were really weird to get out. Everything else you could literally hear like cracking and popping, and I left one small area right here in the driver's area just to give you an idea. So the dry ice has only been on here for, you know, maybe 2 minutes or so, but I was actually able to get just like that, like literally just pull it off as one piece, which is, you know, a hell of a lot easier than sitting there trying to scrape everything. I guess technically two pieces, but yeah, the dry ice works like a dream. So that's pretty cool. You can see you know, a whole bunch of the material there. The trunk is a really big spot that runs, you know, basically the full length of trunk here, and this trunk actually got some rust. It looks like starting to form. Maybe some other steel stuff was back here causing the rust, but yeah, we got all the insulation out. You know, got out of there, that spot, trunk, all rain from that shock tower. Again, that one fought me a little bit right there. I don't know, maybe if I just wasn't able to get as much contact area with it being rounded. I kind of piled up some 2x4s and stuff to get them on, get the dry ice on there, but got all that stuff out. I need to pull this tunnel stuff out, but this seems to be pretty easy. It's not glued on like the other stuff is. It's kind of just like a light adhesive, so it wasn't really fighting me. I don't think I'm gonna need to do dry ice to get that off. Just sit here and pry it off. It seems to be working just fine like that. So that was pretty cool. As far as getting more stuff out of the cabin, you know, I've got the e-brake, which I'm not gonna do till probably the last stage. Gonna get the gas filler neck stuff up off of there. Looks like we've just got a clamp right in there I can take off and then just tuck the hose back in there. These are all rubber lines, so we'll get that stuff pulled out of the way, get that pulled out of the filler cap area. Yeah, and I've got the Ballad Sports roll bar, so I'm gonna mock that up in here, and if we need to put any backing plates or anything to make sure it's got plenty of structural integrity, I'll do that. You know, weld in some stuff we need to. I'm planning on putting the ECU actually back here with the brushless fuel pump controller, so kind of back in that area. So I need to get you know, like a cardboard template laid out along with the roll bar to make sure I'm not going to have any, you know, physical interference issues with all that stuff. So I'm going to get that laid out, have my paint guy come by here and check out what else we need to take off. Obviously the door panels will come off, but it's getting pretty skin and bones at this point. Yeah, so I've got the over fenders in, the Shine Auto Project over fenders, which I've done a couple times now, so I'm not really worried about that. I am gonna have to cut the quarter panel up in there. I've got the 25 mil wider vented front fenders coming for it, which I think maybe should be in the next couple weeks. Obviously, like I said, get the door gutted, get the mirror off. And that's going to be it for, I think, the gross majority of anything related to prepping it prior to going to paint. I don't remember exactly how much I touched on it, but we're doing just very subtle body stuff. The car is going to get a complete color change, which is why we're going to the extent that we are to get everything out of there. It's going to get a C7, I think it's a Z06 or Z01, maybe it's all the C7 Corvettes, just a gloss white color that the customer's really in love with. So we're going to do the color change to that. Obviously, I want to get any of the body work done. Any areas that may potentially need to have modifications or, you know, nut certs put in, anything, so that I'm not grinding off fresh paint as soon as it gets back from that. I don't really want to have to mess it up. As far as other aesthetic things we're going to change, so like we talked about in the past, this car is an AP1. The AP2s use a little bit different bolt holes. I'll have to drill out some stuff there. From my recollection, it's been 10 years or so since I've done that on my original S2000. Then we just got some very subtle other cosmetic stuff. Nothing crazy. It's just going to be a very like OEM plus look, which is I think is going to look really good. So at this point, I think the next video is likely going to be unboxing a lot of the cool parts. Some of the engine stuff's already in my hands. The block is almost back from Inline Pro. So until that, which I think is going to be episode 4, I appreciate everybody tuning in. This one was kind of monotonous because we were just tearing everything out of the car, and there's only so much I can show you without it getting boring there. I appreciate all the support, all the comments on the videos and YouTube and Instagram. I hope you guys are liking this. If you've got any questions or any ideas on something you might want to see change with the car, you know, leave a comment, shoot me a message, whatever. I'm down for everybody's ideas. You know, I think there's been a lot of really creative things that people have been doing in the S2000 community in the last couple of years. So, you know, if you got any idea on how to make this build better, let me know. See you guys next time.